Hey, Llewellyn.
Hey,
We
Robin.
are about to embark on teaching the Essential Low Back program again. Are you excited?
Yeah, pretty excited. How it's going to in our neighborhood too, in Seattle area.
I know it's going to be so nice to offer it here in the Northwest in the summer.
Yep.
Beautiful retreat center with Aria cooking. We'll talk about that more. But um, let's talk about why we love this program. Well, of course, I've been teaching it for a long time, but you came in early on, and you were an early adapter, and
Yeah.
you've both worked with the program on your own, teaching it, and then adapting it in your yoga therapy and your yoga classes. And you've been a mentor with me, working beside me and assisting me
Mhm.
in this
Mhm.
program and supporting people through the practicum. So, what do you love about it? Why? Why this program? What
Yeah, I
is it
love this
about this
program.
program?
It's a very, first of all, there's so many people out there with low back pain. It's one of the first reasons or the main reasons why people go to the doctor. 85% of the population has lower back pain, and so there's always a need for it, and it's satisfying to be able to help people in this way. I love that it comes with a little book that's really appealing to the students, and it gives a format, very concise, very clear, all the whys, hows, the anatomy and the formulas of how to put it together, pictures, audios, videos, even. And that really gives a really good toolkit for people to walk away from, and also as a teacher to have a framework to be able to present the information that's really useful. That's pretty much in a nutshell. I mean, it's got everything in it. It's like this. I mean, if you look at it, it's like this really accessible book with lots of great.
Open it up. Open
Okay.
it up so they can see. Because I mean, I intentionally did the spiral bound so that people could open
Yeah.
it and lay it flat
So there's
and see the
pictures and
pictures.
descriptions, and then you can hook into audio that goes with it, and it goes
Yeah, I
with the program.
recorded all the
Yeah.
practices, right? So
Yeah.
that people can also just plug me in and listen to it. And Sasha's got her beautiful piano playing in the background. It's very soothing.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so I've run this program several times since I learned it. Of course, there was a little pause during the COVID time, but then I started to teach it to individuals in more of a therapeutic setting. And so there's also that as a teacher to be able to help others, where you can adapt really specifically to your student or client and use the book that they can take home and you can reference. And it really is a great resource for that as well.
Yeah.
So, Robin, tell us a little bit more about how this program originated from some studies way back. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was fortunate. It's one of those like be in the right place at the right time. I was in Seattle. There was a group of researchers that were funded by the National Institutes of Health, and they had written a grant asking for funding to look at yoga therapy for lower back pain. And so the head investigator was looking for who in the Seattle area knew a lot about low back pain and had some kind of substance behind them, in that they had, like, there were senior teachers, there were maybe some studies that had been done, some kind of pilot studies, something that indicated that there was usefulness that was going to be replicable over time. That's such an important part of
Mm-hmm.
science.
Mm-hmm.
So, an evidence-based research, right? So my name came up because the two lineages of yoga that had the most backing in terms of really good results in working with people with low back pain were Iyengar Yoga and Vini Yoga, and I was certified in both.
Mm.
So I don't know, she spoke with a number of people and they were like, you should go talk to Robin Rothenberg. So, and then it turned out she and I hit it off. And so she said, basically, would you be the person? And I was working closely with Gary Kraftsaw at that time. And Gary has a great reputation in yoga therapy and has done oodles over in the area of low back pain and taught me tremendous amounts about how to work with people with low back pain. So um, Gary and I co-wrote the protocol, and I taught all the classes for the first study. And then for the second study, I taught the teachers who were teaching it.
Mm-hmm.
And both studies were statistically uh, proven to be clinically effective. 78% of the people in the first study
That's big.
had a reduction in low back pain and an improvement in quality of life, which is unheard of actually in the world of low back pain. If a treatment is anything better than placebo effect, which is 50%, it's considered to be really good. 78%, like, it's unheard of. So it was published, that study was published in the Archives of Internal Medicine. It was the first randomized controlled trial that was ever done on yoga therapy for low back pain. I think it was maybe the first one done on yoga, using yoga therapy protocol, specifically yoga therapy. So the program was designed where we put together the yoga therapy protocol. It was a 12-week program. And then they also brought on a physical therapist that specialized in low back pain. And that person put together their own PT-oriented protocol for lower back pain. And then there was a really good book on self-care for low back pain. So there were 3 options that people were randomized into, and all of them were actually useful. One of the things, in addition to the fact that 78% of the people who did the yoga program experienced an improvement in their condition, lessening of their pain, lessening need for medication or pain relief, and an increase in quality of life, kind of getting back into their functional norm. But 6 months later, they were still experiencing improvement. And that was not the case with the PT. The PT, I don't remember the exact stats. I know that their program did not do as well as the yoga therapy program did, but also people fell off the wagon with the PT. And I think that's largely because we had the audio practices, we had a little handout. It wasn't as niftily put together as the ELBP. Yes. But it really gave people something that they could practice with. And there was the mind, body, breath aspect to it that I think felt more invitational to people. Yeah. It wasn't just exercise. It was a way of self-care. Yeah. And I think that's a big piece of why this program is so transformative for the clients, the students who are coming in with low back pain, is because it's accessible. Everybody can do it. If they, there are exclusion criteria. There's certain kinds of low back pain that need medical attention. But for people who have musculoskeletal issues that are driving it, poor posture and movement patterns, tightness, weakness, chronic, inattention and imbalance in their bodies, this program is for them, which is most of the population. Most of that, 85% of the people who have low back pain, that's who needs this program. And yoga teachers can teach this program. Yeah. Right? Yoga teachers and even yoga therapists who've been trained, they don't necessarily have the in-depth training. We take 5 days just for examining the lower back, the pelvic girdle, the breath, and how all of that works together. It's not just about the anatomy. It's really about the psychology and the anatomy and the physiology and looking at things 3-dimensionally, right? We do a lot of observation and a lot of hands-on practice, looking at individuals within the class, because everybody's got their own body. And you know what, Llewellyn, whenever I teach this program, and it's always yoga teachers, yoga therapists, sometimes I get a doctor or a PT or OT, somebody like that who also is interested because they do yoga as well. But at least half to 2/3 of the people who come have low back pain. Yeah. And it makes me sad to say it, but largely the reason for their low back pain is what they're doing in their yoga practice. Yeah.
Yeah. So this program gives a lot of background information, like the anatomy.
I love the pun.
And also, the book goes through basic anatomy and how to recognize as a teacher what might be one of the focuses for a student in your class, how to adapt for the very many types of back pain there are that will walk in the room in your program when you get it up and running.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so like sitting or you propping, any type of way that you might be able to help someone to not increase their pain, but reduce their pain through these practices is covered in the program. And I thought maybe you could say a little bit more, Robin, about the structure of the program. You mentioned 5 days, not only where we're going to meet at the beautiful Aldermarsh Retreat Center, but what we do in those 5 days. I mean, 5 days, what do we do in all those 5 days?
Yeah, it's 5 days, and I always hear at the end, like, that was a lot, but like every single hour that we spent was really like a pearl, because there's a lot to it. The pelvic girdle is complicated,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Absolutely.
And right. And there's so much going on there. And there's so much right side to left side, front side to back side, inside to outside. So when you start to look at it three-dimensionally and how the fascial lines are connected and what's happening on the deep inner core area, and how that relates to the breath and how that relates to the nervous system, and sitting for long periods of time, or standing for long periods of time, or having connective tissue that's super lax. And so there's tendency towards hypermobility versus connective tissue that's super locked down and tight, that tends to go towards hypomobility. And how do you adapt and address those kinds of issues for an individual? Because you can't use the same technique or the same sequence or the same process with everybody. But being able to see and discern and interpret correctly, like, oh, this is what's going on. And even the language people use, how people talk about their SI, sacroiliac dysfunction, is different than when they're talking about a tight, low, weak, low back, like the way they describe it, where they put their hands on it. So equipping teachers with all of that information on the other side, all the information, like, when do you refer? When do you hear language or indications that say, you know what, this is beyond the scope of yoga teaching. This is beyond the scope of yoga therapy. You need to see a doctor, probably get an MRI, see what else is going on there, right? That's also really important. We need to be humble. We can do a lot. Like, I mean, I don't know at this point how many people, hundreds of people that I've worked with low back pain, and I have really good success rates. And I've only had to say to a few people, I can work with you with breathing, do some meditation, but we're not doing anything with asana, your physical body, till you go get it looked at. And all three of those people ended up having surgery like within weeks. It was bad. But most people do well with yoga, and not everybody does. So it's really good for us to know where those lines are, and to know how to work within them. So the feedback I get from the teachers who come in across the board, they feel a level of a depth of understanding that they didn't have before. They love the fact that they can walk out of this training and utilize this information.
Yes.
Whether, they might not be in a place where they can do the 7-week series yet, right? They have to like set that up and market it and all of that, but they can go leave the workshop on Sunday and go to their Tuesday class. And they say they are seeing their students differently. Their sequencing is different, right? They're bringing in all this core strength work that we talk about. And, in my world, there's 4 cores, not just the abdominal core, but you got to come to the program to learn about the other 3. And even to learn what I mean by the abdominal core, right? But they're really critically important, and strength and stability is such an important piece that I emphasize, which is not emphasized in the mainstream world of yoga, which is one of the reasons why there's so much low back pain in the world of yoga, because there's a lot of destabilized sacrums that happen as a result of consistent flow and stretch, and nothing holding the pelvis together. So they love that they feel better. I hear that a lot, like, oh my God, when I arrived 5 days ago, I was in so much pain, and I cannot believe how much stronger I feel, how much more stable I feel. And even though this is not the way I usually teach, I feel like I can take this, I can work with it for myself. I can bring it right into my classes. And then they, are writing to me like, I can't believe, like, I have the student came in, or I, did a little mini workshop on this and everyone was just like eating it up. So
Yeah.
it's also good vocationally in terms of, because there's so many people with low back pain, and I don't see that going away anytime soon. It's a good way to have, it on a regular basis in
Yeah.
your calendar that you're teaching it and you come to be known as the low back person in your area. I know
Yeah.
you've done that, Ellen. You want to talk about your success
Yeah.
with that?
I used to do that spring classes. It's a 7-week program, so you do have to set it up, and in our training we'll go over that, how to get yourself up and running, little intake forms, and how to structure classes and all of that. So over 7 weeks is how I did it, and I would do one in the spring and one in the fall, and then word would get around, and I'd have people coming up to me, when's your next one, and so that was a nice way to run the program. And then like I said, there was individual classes. I've done it on Zoom classes. You can even do it then. I think the one thing in this program that's if you come to do the training is that Robin and I will be able to we'll be helping you, like Robin said, to make yourself comfortable, to work with your body and what you have going on. And then by doing that, you'll learn how to help other people. And so along with the book and all the other suggestions, so having learned experience that way. So there's practice, lots of practice sessions, and the didactic, bringing all the information in, and case studies. Don't you do a case study, Robin?
I do. I bring somebody from the community in who's not necessarily a yoga person, but somebody that has low back pain, and it's like a regular yoga therapy session that the client agrees to allow the group of teachers to observe. And it's always a high point for the program, because at that, we usually do it on day 4, and they have like a real solid sense of the ground, the foundation of the way that I work and the way that I weave the different processes together. And then they watch that in real time unfold. Right.
Yeah.
So they're
That's
always
so
like,
helpful.
oh my God, it's just, you did exactly like what you said you did. I'm like, yeah, because it works. I'm teaching you what
Yeah.
actually works with people with low back pain. And then they watch the lights go off, and this client's like, oh my God, I can feel the difference. Oh, and then afterwards they're like, I feel so more relaxed. And on my back, was like a 5 when I came in, and maybe it's like a 1, but I can really feel the difference even with that little practice.
Yeah.
And you and I were talking about the mini practices and how, even though there's like these longer practices that were part of the original, NIH study design, one of the things that I share is how to take those and break them down into little nuggets, so that you've got your busy mom with 3 kids, or whatever, your corporate executive who, doesn't have any time, but, you can make a little mini practice that's 5 minutes, 10 minutes that they can insert here or there. When they get up in the morning before they go to bed at night, something like that, so that they are empowered to do something for self-care. And it doesn't have to be fancy or elaborate. In fact, that, again, the accessibility of all of this, that was one of the parameters for NIH, is forget fancy asanas, like, what can people do? This was a program designed for people with low back pain, not people who are interested in yoga.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yes.
And so it's a great way for getting new students in, because you get people who aren't coming in through the door of, oh, I want to learn yoga. They're coming in because I hate to say it, but they're desperate. They're in pain. They're in chronic pain. Nothing has really helped. And they hear about this program. So they're like, I'll give yoga therapy a try. And then they feel better. And then they're hooked. Then they'll come to your like beginning yoga class maybe, or, like you can start to build clientele from this in a really substantive way. And I've seen people do it all over the country. I have a lot of Canadians, one in particular who like built her whole career around this program. And had a whole referral network with the docs and the PTs and like the people locally.
Yeah.
And really
You
had
can really
a
go
great,
far with it. Yeah. And
Yeah,
speaking
yeah.
of going far with it, you were in Australia, weren't you, with this program last year?
I was. That was one of the things that happened. I was invited to go teach this program in Australia last summer, which I had a great time. Wonderful, wonderful group. And in fact, they've invited me to come back and do neck and shoulders. And I'm
Nice.
excited to go back and do that actually a year from now. But I came back and I thought, well, why am I going to Australia to teach the low back program? I used to teach it every year before COVID
Yeah.
here, right? Close to home. So that's how we came up with our beautiful retreat center that we love up on Whidbey Island outside Seattle. It's going to be a holiday weekend. So it'll be a lovely time of year to be out here, a fun time for those of you who want to come to Seattle, have never been, or want to revisit it when the sun most likely shines.
Yeah.
And then our Ayurvedic chef lives on Whidbey
Arya's
Island
food. Yum.
and she cooks fabulous food. So all I can tell you is the combination of the nature, the beauty of nature, Arya's food, the depth of the teaching and the experiential processes that we go through, the group sharing and sense of Sangha. It's going to be a really delightful week. And I encourage all of you to come and join us.
Yeah. You'll feel really good at the end. You'll know so much and make good
You might feel
connections.
like your head's going to explode, but you'll certainly feel satiated, like you
Yeah.
got your money's worth for sure.
Totally, totally. Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. All of the above, everything we've talked about. And again, it is a really good piece to add to your, yoga career, really. You can take it into everything, like your regular classes, you can do workshops, you can do 7-week programs, you can do individuals. There's so many ways to take this information into the way that you teach yoga and whatever format works for you and the people in your community.
And I do want to just emphasize that the NIH funded research and the fact that it's been published in 2 major mainstream medical journals, that it was a randomized control trial, which is like the gold standard, that's a great selling point. And I
Definitely.
can tell you, there's no other low back training in the world of yoga that has those creds behind it. And people listen to that because then it doesn't sound so airy fairy,
Yeah.
right? They're
Yep.
not so concerned like, well, what are you going to put me in some kind of contortionist position? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, right. This is like, has this backing of science and it's been proven to be effective.
Yes, absolutely. That's definitely, people come in more when they hear about the validity of how this works, and that
Yes.
it does really work, and other people, in your community. So